Tonight, we begin a quiet journey through time, not to the romanticized world of swashbuckling pirates you might see in films or storybooks, but to something far less glamorous and far more grim. This is a slow, softly narrated look into the life of a real Middle Ages pirate. A world of damp wooden decks, salted wounds, and harsh justice. A world where survival was uncertain, and comfort was a luxury rarely known. Our video, titled Boring History for Sleep: Why You'd Never Survive as a Middle Ages Pirate, is not just a story, it is a historical experience, carefully stitched together with facts, accounts, and gentle rhythm to guide you toward rest, while quietly reflecting on the harsh truths of a life at sea in medieval times. If you've ever thought about what it would be like to be a pirate during the Middle Ages, prepare for a far cry from adventure. Life aboard a pirate vessel in the 12th or 13th century was not defined by buried treasure or dramatic sword fights, but by disease, starvation, constant danger, and the unforgiving vastness of the sea. It was a life without privacy, filled with hard labor, unpredictable leadership, and brutal consequences. Tonight, we explore that reality. Before we begin, I invite you to make a small gesture. Stay with me until the end of this journey, and when you reach it, share in the comments how you're feeling. Are you relaxed, surprised, sleepy, maybe just curious about the forgotten corners of history? Whatever you feel, I'd love to know. Your thoughts help shape more quiet stories like this one. Now, gently close your eyes, if you'd like. Let your breathing settle, and allow the slow rhythm of the sea and the weight of old history to carry you back to a world you likely wouldn't survive in, not for even a single day. It is sometime in the 13th century. You are not on land. You are not a noble, a farmer, or a monk. You are aboard a small, creaking ship made mostly of pine woodruff, unfinished, poorly caulked, the sails stitched from thick wool, flap wearily in the biting wind. You are part of a pirate crew somewhere off the coast of the Mediterranean, and it has been weeks since you last saw a friendly shore. Your fingers are blistered from handling rough hemp ropes. Salt has dried in the cracks of your skin. You are hungry, but there is no fresh food, just salted cod, full of bone. Water is rationed. What little you are given is warm and tastes faintly of wood and mold. There are no proper beds. You sleep on damp, splintered boards. Lice and fleas make themselves at home beneath your tunic. You scratch quietly, trying not to wake the others. The crew is made of outlaws, mercenaries, and desperate men. Many were criminals on land, others simply poor. Some were kidnapped into this life. No one fully trusts anyone. You keep a knife under your blanket, just in case. Leadership changes quickly. Sometimes the strongest man rules, sometimes the most cunning. Mutiny is never far from possibility. This is not a democracy. There are no elections, just whispers, deals, and the occasional knife in the dark. Disease is constant. Scurvy, caused by a lack of fresh vegetables or fruit, rots your gums and leaves you weak. There are no doctors, only crude healers who may bleed you with rusty knives or rub foul-smelling ointments into wounds. If your leg gets infected, they may cut it off, without warning, without much thought. You might die anyway. You haven't bathed in weeks. Seawater doesn't cleanse. It just makes the salt cling tighter. The stink of unwashed bodies hangs thick in the air below deck. You grow used to it, or you try. Rats scurry across the beams at night. You hear them but rarely see them. They chew through food sacks, gnaw through boots, and bite sleeping sailors. Still you stay, because there is nowhere else to go. You owe your captain a debt. Or perhaps you're hiding from something on land. The reasons don't matter anymore. You are here now, part of the crew, part of the ship. You take your place during the day at the oars when there is no wind. Rowing for hours, blisters become calluses, shoulders burn. You dare not stop unless ordered. Slowing down may earn you a lash from the bosun. You share everything, the food, the labor, the fear. But if loot is taken, it is not shared equally. The captain always takes more. The officers more than you. If you protest, they may cast you overboard, or strand you on a rock. It has happened before. There are rules, but they are unwritten. Some things are understood. Stealing from the crew is a death sentence. Lying to the captain is punishable by flogging. Refusing to fight when boarded may mean being chained to the mast during a battle. Better to die swinging a sword than be skewered helplessly like a pig. You remember your first raid. It wasn't glamorous. Just a small merchant vessel, poorly defended. You boarded it in the early morning fog. Screams, blood, a broken jaw from a panicked sailor's blow. You didn't feel brave, just lucky, and then guilty. But the captain gave you a silver coin, your share. You tucked it away, never spending. It's just something to remind you that there was still value in your suffering. Nights are the worst. Cold wind, endless dark water, no lights. The stars are your only companions. Some men talk of sea monsters, others believe in curses. You say nothing. You stare at the sky, wondering if anyone on land is thinking of you, or if they've already forgotten. You wonder how long you can last. You wonder if you'll ever see land again. You wonder if it's better not to. And somewhere out there, in the Black Sea, a sail appears. You don't know yet whether it's a friend, a foe, or another desperate crew just like yours. But you know one thing, you'll fight if ordered. You'll run, if told, you'll survive. Because that's all there is left to do. The sail on the horizon grows larger as the minutes pass, its dark shape rising from the gentle curve of the sea, like a ghost from a tale told in whispers below deck. The crew stirs with a familiar unease, not panic, not excitement, something quieter, deeper, almost resigned. Everyone knows that ships crossing paths in these waters rarely do so peacefully. You hear the soft tap of hurried boots overhead, the low murmur of voices speaking in tongues you don't understand. Some of the men are from distant corners of the known world, Moorish fighters, Greek deserters, Sicilian smugglers, and former slaves from the coast of the Maghreb. Language is less important than loyalty here, though neither is guaranteed. The captain emerges from the forecastle, his long coat flapping in the wind, made of wool so worn that the color is indiscernible. His face is lined from years of salt and sun. A cruel scar pulls at the corner of his lip. He squints into the distance, says nothing, then gestures silently toward the oars. There's no wind. That means rowing. That means pain. And yet no one protests. You take your position alongside your crewmates, shoulder to shoulder, wood against calloused palms. The heavy rhythm beginning again, like a slow heartbeat. You row in silence. The sea slaps against the hull. The ship groans weary like a beast that's been carrying too much for too long. As you approach the other vessel, details begin to emerge. Its hull is low and narrow. Not a merchant ship. Not a warship either. It might be another pirate crew. Or worse, a patrol ship from one of the coastal kingdoms, sent to drive you into the depths. There's a fine line between pirate and privateer, between thief and soldier, and it often depends on which flag is flying. The captain orders the archers to ready themselves. A few men armed with short, curved bows stand near the prow. You're not among them. Your weapon is a rusting hatchet and a broken spear. You try not to think about how they will perform when it matters. You tighten your grip on the oar. Your heart beats faster, but your face remains still. No one here shows fear. Fear is weakness, and weakness draws cruelty. As the distance closes, a signal is given, 2 flashes of a mirrored disc from the opposing deck. Your captain frowns, thinks, then responds with 1 flash. A moment later, the other ship veers off, turning south. Your ship slows. The men exhale quietly. Not a battle, not today. You rest the oar beside you. Your arms tremble from the strain. Sweat trickles down your spine. The sea, the sky, the endless uncertainty of every day out here it all gnaws at the mind like rot in a hull beam. After the false alarm, the captain allows a short break. Food is distributed, a few hard biscuits, dense and riddled with weevils. You don't bother picking them out anymore. The tiny insects are a source of protein, and taste barely matters now. You eat slowly, sitting on the deck, your back against a coiled rope. One of the older sailors, a man called Braga, begins muttering about the time he nearly lost his hand to a misfired crossbow bolt. The story changes each time he tells it, but no one interrupts him. Letting the old men talk is one of the few courtesies observed aboard. The sun sinks lower, turning the sea to molten bronze. The ship lists lazily, a battered gull gliding above. The sound of waves lapping against the hull becomes rhythmic, nearly hypnotic, and you begin to feel the strange melancholy that always comes in moments of calm. You think of your first day aboard this ship. You remember the way the dock looked as it disappeared behind you. The sound of your old life fading into the cry of gulls and the creak of ropes. You didn't come here seeking glory. No one does. Maybe you were escaping punishment. Maybe it was poverty. Maybe you were lured in by the promise of gold, which has never quite materialized. Whatever brought you aboard, it is irrelevant now. There is only the present, the endless present of the sea, the hunger, the labor. A sudden shout breaks your thoughts. One of the lookout men has spotted something to the east. Smoke, not from a ship this time, but from the coast. That means fire, and fire means people. The captain gives orders. You are to anchor in a sheltered cove before dawn, and make landfall by foot. No one knows what they'll find there, but the opportunity for food, supplies, or plunder is reason enough. The idea of stepping on solid ground again brings mixed emotions. Relief, yes, but also fear. The land is not necessarily safer. Sometimes it's more dangerous. As the ship adjusts course, you are assigned night watch duty. That means staying awake while others sleep, keeping an eye on the horizon, and listening for signs of danger storms, enemy ships, desertion. You wrap yourself in a rough wool cloak and settle near the prow, the cold wind biting at your cheeks. The stars emerge in a quiet chorus above, shimmering like distant candles in an unknowable cathedral. You count them until you lose track. The silence is complete, except for the gentle slap of water and the occasional creak of shifting wood. In moments like this, you remember the things you miss: warmth, clean air, real food, a soft bed, a kind face, a name spoken gently. But those are luxuries now, and this is not a life built on luxury. You are a tool here, one that can be replaced. If broken. Just before dawn, the ship pulls into a narrow inlet shrouded by cliffs. The anchor is lowered with a heavy splash. The water is shallow and clear. The smell of pine and earth reaches you for the first time in weeks. It's almost overwhelming. The captain speaks quietly. There will be a small landing party. You will be part of it. A dozen men, armed and alert, will slip ashore to explore, scavenge, and possibly raid. There are no guarantees. But then again, nothing in this life ever is. You prepare your gear: a knife, a ragged water skin, a pouch for carrying anything worth taking. As the rowboat lowers, your heart tightens again. Every step in this life is risk, but risk is all you know. And so, as the first light of morning brushes the trees in golden silence, you step into the small boat and begin to row toward the unknown shore. The oar creaks, the men around you say nothing, and the ship behind you waits patiently, silent, cold, and watching. The rowboat glides across the still waters of the inlet, with a softness that almost feels unnatural after weeks at sea. The reflection of the cliffs dances across the surface like old ghosts in the early light. No one speaks. Each man aboard knows that silence is the safest language on an unfamiliar shore. You clutch your weapon close, not because you expect a fight, but because you've learned better than to be caught without it. The oars dip into the water, each stroke synchronized, quiet and cautious. The boat scrapes gently against a narrow strip of pebbled beach beneath a curtain of trees. You step out into the shallows, your boots soaking through instantly, the cold shocking after the stale warmth of the ship. The forest looms in front of you, dark and dense, alive with the chirping of unseen birds. You had almost forgotten the sounds of land, the rustle of wind through leaves, the creak of branches, the scatter of small animals. It's beautiful in its way, but not comforting. Beauty rarely is when you're starving and armed. The captain's second in command, a tall man named Sorelli, with a reputation for cruelty, takes the lead. He raises a hand, signaling for silence. Behind him, the rest of the landing party fans out in pairs, moving slowly up the narrow trail that winds into the trees. You walk with Braga, the old sailor with the scarred eye and a limp that never seems to slow him. He says nothing, but his gaze is sharp, scanning every shadow. The smell of fire is stronger now. Not wild smoke, but controlled hearth smoke. That means people. Somewhere nearby, someone is cooking or warming themselves, or perhaps guarding their home against the cold. You grip your weapon tighter. The trail splits. Sorelli signals again, motioning for 2 men to follow the left fork, while the rest proceed to the right. You go with the main group. The trail narrows, and branches whip against your arms and face. Every sound becomes louder in your ears. Snapping underfoot, birds taking flight, the rhythmic beat of your own heart. And then you see it just ahead, nestled between the trees, is a small settlement. 4 or 5 huts, thatched with straw, clustered around a central fire pit. Thin columns of smoke rise into the pale morning sky. A few goats graze near the edge. There are people here, peasants, perhaps, or fishermen. A woman stirs a pot over a fire. A child chases a chicken. An old man sharpens a blade. They haven't seen you yet. There is a brief, tense moment as Sorelli raises his hand again. This time it means wait. The men crouch low behind brush and tree trunks, watching. The captain hadn't given specific orders for what to do in this situation. It's left to Sorelli's judgment. And Sorelli, as everyone knows, is not known for mercy. He gives a sharp whistle. The villagers freeze. The men rush forward. You follow, not by choice, but by necessity. In seconds, the clearing erupts into confusion. The woman screams. The child runs. The old man brandishes his blade and is cut down almost immediately. You don't see who does it. It doesn't matter, there is no real resistance. The villagers are poor, unarmed, and surprised. Within minutes, they are subdued. 3, taken captive. The rest fled into the woods. The huts are searched and stripped. Dried fish, sacks of barley, some root vegetables, a small jug of oil, 2 ceramic bowls, and an old but usable net. That is the haul. Hardly worth the blood, but no one says that aloud. Sorelli kicks over the cookpot, scattering its contents. He seems disappointed. You don't ask why. Braga picks up one of the ceramic bowls and turns it over in his hands. Nice glaze, he mutters, then drops it, letting it shatter on the stones. You keep your eyes forward. The captives are tied and marched back to the beach. Their hands are bound, their eyes wide. One of them, a boy of perhaps 15, glares at you, as if trying to memorize your face. You wonder what he'll do if he lives, if he remembers, if he survives at all. There is no justice in piracy, only opportunity. Back at the shore, the supplies are loaded into the rowboat. The captives are placed in the center, huddled and shivering. The boat is heavier now. The return trip to the ship is slower. The silence is thicker. You feel the weight of what just happened, but say nothing. That is how you survive, by saying nothing. On board the ship, the captain surveys the spoils with a hard eye. He says little. He does not speak to the captives, who are taken below deck and tied to a beam. Their fate is uncertain. They may be ransomed if a port can be found, or sold, or left somewhere, or worse. Braga shrugs as he bites into a raw turnip. Taken from the village, better than maggot bread, he says, chewing slowly. You return to your duties. The ship is prepared for departure. The sails are adjusted, the anchor lifted. The vessel creaks as it turns back toward deeper waters. The coast recedes behind you again. The moment on land already feels like a dream, a strange, cold place that smelled of earth and fire, where lives were changed and nothing was gained. As you take your place near the mast, coiling a line and tying off the rigging, you feel the ache in your arms and the numbness in your chest. There is no triumph in the raid, only fatigue, only the same empty routine of survival. You look out across the waves and see nothing but endless gray. The horizon offers no promise, just more salt, more hunger, more waiting. Below deck, someone begins humming a low, mournful tune. You recognize it, a song about a sailor lost to a storm, never found. The kind of song you're not supposed to believe in, but still find yourself thinking about in quiet moments. You close your eyes for a second and let the rhythm of the ship and the whisper of the sea wrap around you like a heavy blanket. The journey continues. You don't know where you're going. No one does. The ship moves because it must. The crew works because they must. You endure because there is nothing else. No future, no past. Only the long, slow present of the pirates. Life a life you were never meant to survive. The days blur together at sea, without a calendar or a priest to mark the holy days. Time becomes a matter of light and dark, hunger and relief, storm and stillness. The crew rises with the sun and labors until it fades. Nights are long and filled with the creaking of the hull, the groans of sleeping men, and the occasional cry from the captives below deck. The boy still watches everyone with wide, angry eyes. One of the older pirates jokes that he'll slit throats in the night if given the chance. No one laughs. It's not a funny thought. It's a real possibility. The food from the village doesn't last, it never does. A few turnips, some smoked fish, and the barley porridge barely stretch for a day or two, when shared among nearly 40 men. The captain rations it with stern judgment, favoring those he trusts, or those too dangerous to deny. You fall somewhere in between, neither trusted nor threatening. That's a dangerous place to be. The sea is calm for a time. The wind is sluggish. Without strong gusts, the ship drifts slowly, the sails limp and silent. This is the worst kind of quiet, the kind that breeds discontent. Men begin to murmur. Boredom turns to suspicion. Someone accuses another of hoarding food. A knife is drawn. Blood is spilled. The captain doesn't even look up when the injured man is dragged below. There's no justice here, only consequence. The wounded may heal, or he may rot. Either way, it changes nothing. You sleep in short bursts an hour here to there, wrapped in a moldy cloak on a damp piece of sailcloth. The scent of mildew is inescapable. Your dreams are strange and broken, filled with salt and smoke and voices you once knew. You wake with a stiff back and a sore throat. One of the younger crew coughs constantly now, a wet and rattling sound. Illness spreads quickly on a ship like this. There are no doctors, no remedies beyond a slug of liquor or a whispered prayer. Braga tells a story one evening while the crew gathers around a lantern, its light dimmed with fish oil. He talks about a pirate who went mad after seeing the Virgin Mary walk across the water. Swore she told him to burn his ship and walk home to Sicily. Braga says, grinning with blackened teeth, he tried, drowned like a rat. The others chuckle quietly, not because it's funny, but because it's something to do. You sit silently, staring at the wood grain of the deck. The pattern shifts in the flickering light. It almost looks like a map. 2 days later, a storm comes. Not a mighty tempest, but a sharp and sudden squall with winds that scream like the damned and rain that hits like stones. The sails are hauled in too late. The ship lurches violently, and a man is thrown overboard. No one sees where he lands. No one searches. His name is mumbled once, then forgotten. That's how it is out here. Death is quick, and memory shorter. Still, the storm passes, leaving the ship soaked and the men colder than before. The deck is slick with seawater and vomit. Everyone's face looks drawn and pale. A barrel of salted cod has split during the rocking, its contents spoiled. That was meant to last a week. Now it's slime and stench. Hunger begins to gnaw at the edges of every thought. You dream of bread, of roasted meat, of stewed onions and soft cheese. Then you wake and eat a piece of leather boiled in brine. It keeps your stomach from twisting, but only just. On the 4th morning after the storm, the lookout calls down. A coastline is spotted low sandy, with thin trees dotting the inland slope. Not a city, not even a proper village, perhaps a camp or a fishing hamlet. No flags are visible. The captain decides to anchor again. This time, the landing party is smaller, 5 men, including you. Sorelli remains aboard. The captain goes in his place. That's rare. The men whisper about it. Some say he's searching for something specific. Others say he's had a dream. The rowboat is lowered. The water is calmer than before, and the sun is bright. It almost feels peaceful, but you've learned that peace is usually a lie. The shore is marshy. Your boots sink into the mud. Flies buzz around your face. The smell of stagnant water hangs heavy in the air. The captain says nothing as he leads the group inland. His coat is patched with salt stains. His boots split at the seams. You find the source of the smoke quickly. A series of hide tents, stretched between stunted trees. They belong to coastal herders, nomads perhaps, living on the edge of the land. No walls, no warriors, just thin, wary people who look up as you approach. They don't run, they don't speak. One of them, an old woman with no teeth, raises her hand in greeting. The captain raises his hand in return. For a moment you wonder if this will be different, and it is strangely. There is no raid, no knives drawn. The captain speaks to them through one of the crewmen who knows a bit of their dialect. The nomads offer fish, water, and something that looks like fermented milk. The captain trades a knife and a strip of cloth for a small clay jar of dried berries. You watch in silence, waiting for the sudden turn, the violence, the betrayal, but it never comes. After an hour, you return to the ship with only a handful of supplies and the faintest sense of something unusual, mercy, or perhaps calculation. The captain rarely explains himself, but he seems thoughtful as the rowboat pulls away. He fingers the clay jar absently, then tucks it into his coat. You wonder what he's thinking. You wonder if he regrets anything. Back aboard, the crew is restless. They expected plunder, not parley. One of the men complains, loudly. The captain doesn't speak. He simply steps forward and strikes the man across the face with the butt of a musket. The man falls, dazed and bleeding. The crew falls silent. Order, as always, is maintained through fear. That night, a strange quiet settles over the ship. The wind dies. The sea is flat. Even the usual groans and murmurs are gone. You sit on the deck, legs crossed, looking up at the sky. The stars are sharp and bright. They feel impossibly distant, like memories of a better world. You think of your home, of the road that led here, of all the choices that were never really choices at all. You close your eyes and listen to the slow, gentle slap of water against wood. This is your life now, a drifting ship, a crew of thieves, the constant threat of death, or worse. There is no romance in it, no glory, only survival, and even that you're beginning to realize is not promised. The morning fog rolls in thick and heavy, muting sound and swallowing sight. You wake to the soft lapping of water and the creak of rigging above, everything else swallowed by the dense gray. For a moment you forget where you are. There's only cold, wet air and the damp press of your blanket clinging to your skin. But then the coughing starts deep, chesty, and close. The boy captive. He's taken ill. Others have noticed. Below deck, the air is foul. Men shift uneasily in their sleep, muttering, scratching. One of them groans in his sleep and rolls over with a thud. You make your way carefully through the narrow, swaying space to check on the captives. The boy lies curled up, his breath rattling. His eyes are open, but they don't seem to see you. The older woman, perhaps his mother, watches with a strange calm, her arms wrapped protectively around him. She doesn't speak your language. She doesn't need to. The message is in her eyes. You've taken everything, and now death is here to finish what you started. Back on deck, the fog remains. The lookout calls nothing because there is nothing to see. No sails in the distance, no coast, no sun. The captain, ever silent in moments like these, stands near the prow and stares into the white void as if daring it to answer him. He clutches the clay jar from the last shore visit tightly in one hand, rubbing the surface with his thumb. A few of the crew murmur about it. Some say it's witchcraft, others say it's medicine. You suspect even the captain doesn't know what it is. Maybe it's just something to believe in. By midday, the fog lifts just enough to see the horizon, flat and empty as always. The wind returns, weak but steady. The sails are set, and the ship begins its slow, groaning crawl forward again. The day unfolds with labor ropes to coil, barrels to shift, patchwork to complete. Sorelli, quiet since the last landing, takes over the deck with harsh orders and clipped gestures. He's been drinking more. The crew senses it. There's a tension behind every movement, a shortness in temper. One man forgets to stow a line and gets whipped across the back for it. His shirt is ruined, his skin torn. No one intervenes. By evening, another man falls sick. Not a captive this time, a crewman, young, maybe 17. He collapses while mending a sail, coughing blood onto the canvas. The deck goes still. Braga leans over and touches the boy's forehead. Hot as iron, he says. The captain calls for isolation. The boy is dragged below and lashed to a beam near the others. Some of the crew mutter about bad luck, curses, poisoned wind. Sorelli calls them cowards, but keeps his distance from the sick just the same. The sea gives no mercy. The next day the illness spreads. 2 more crewmen come down with it, shivering, coughing into rags. The smell in the hold becomes unbearable. There are no doctors, just seawater, liquor, and prayer. You do what you can, cleaning wounds, holding cups to lips, but it feels hollow, as if you're simply performing gestures to distract from the truth. Everyone knows what's coming. Everyone remembers how fast sickness can sweep through a wooden vessel, killing by the dozen. You think of the last ship you were on, months ago now. The captain dead by the 4th day of illness, half the crew by the 7th. You and 5 others abandoned the vessel in a stolen dinghy. You never spoke of it again. But now, the same scent is in the air. The same quiet dread. The captain changes course. No one knows where to, only that the sails turn and the ship veers northwest. Braga speculates he's heading toward a port, maybe a remote one where sick men can be left ashore without question. Or a graveyard, he adds grimly. A quiet place to die. No one disagrees. Food runs low again. The last of the turnips are soft and gray. Bread is long gone. The cook tries to make a stew of soaked leather and rat meat. The broth is bitter and gritty, but it fills the belly. Barely the captives stop eating altogether. The boy slips into unconsciousness. The woman sings over him soft, rhythmic. A lullaby maybe. Or a death song. It makes the men uneasy. Some cover their ears. Others weep quietly. At night, the storm returns, not a violent one, but long steady rain and wind. The kind that lasts days and seeps into your bones. The deck is slick, the ropes heavy with moisture. You work in silence, drenched and cold, your hands raw from the salt. A gull lands on the railing one morning, and 2 men fight over it. One kills the bird with a thrown knife. They split it raw. Blood drips from their chins as they eat. No one stops them. Morale is breaking. Sorelli lashes out at any sign of hesitation. The captain no longer speaks at all, only points or nods. You begin to dream of fire, of burning ships and empty oceans, of being alone in the water with no land in sight. You wake with your teeth clenched and the taste of salt in your mouth. Then land. A jagged coastline appears in the distance. Dark. Cliffs rising sharply from the sea. A few ruined towers cling to the stone like broken fingers. The ship steers toward a narrow cove beneath the cliffs, barely wide enough to pass through. The captain stands at the helm, the clay jar in his coat, eyes fixed on the shore. He speaks a single word. Here. The crew obeys, if only out of habit. The anchor is lowered, the sails drawn in. The rowboat is prepared. This time the landing party includes the sick. 3 of them, half conscious, are loaded into the boat. The boy is one of them. You're sent along to help carry them. No one wants to go, but the captain insists. He says nothing about returning. The rowboat makes landfall beneath the cliffs, on a stretch of stone and sand. There are ruins, year-old, empty, overgrown. A crumbled wall, a broken archway, what might have once been a monastery or fortress. Time has reclaimed it. Moss covers the stones. Vines twist through windows. It smells of damp earth and something older, something forgotten. You help carry the sick into one of the roofless chambers. The wind howls through the gaps. The woman follows silently, her bare feet leaving marks in the mud. She does not beg, she does not speak. She simply sits beside the boy and holds him close. You wait for the order to return. It doesn't come. The captain turns and begins walking back toward the boat. You glance at the sick, then at the crew. No one protests. No one asks why you follow. The rowboat pushes off, leaving 5 behind. No one looks back on the ship. The silence is unbearable. Sorelli breaks it with a toast, mocking, bitter. To clean decks and fewer mouths, he says. No one joins him. That night, you lie awake staring at the timbers above your head. You hear rats skittering, water dripping, men coughing. You think of the boy, of the broken tower, of the clay jar, and the way the captain held it like something sacred. You wonder what's left of your humanity, and whether it's worth keeping. Because being a pirate in the Middle Ages doesn't just take your future. It takes your past, your hope, and your soul. And you're not even halfway through. The ship drifts from the shore of the ruined cliffs, the sea heavy beneath it, as if weighed down by what was left behind. No one speaks of the boy or the others. Their names aren't spoken, their absence isn't marked. On this ship, grief has no place. There is only the next day, the next storm, the next desperate hunt for food, water, and survival. But you remember the way the woman held the boy, even as his breathing slowed. The way her voice never broke as she sang. Even when she was left alone in the ruins, in the cold, in the wet. You remember how no one looked her in the eye, not even the captain. You wonder if he thought he was being merciful, if he simply wanted silence. The next few days are a haze of labor. The winds favor the ship, at last, and the crew is forced into constant work trimming sails, bailing out water, checking for leaks. The captain gives no new orders beyond heading north, tracing the edges of known trade routes where merchant ships, fat with wine, wool, and grain, may be caught unaware. The hope of plunder is the only thing keeping the men sharp. That and fear, not of the sea, or of the sickness that still lingers like a shadow in the corners of the hold, but of one another. Now that resources are scarce and tempers shorter than rope, suspicion breeds like mold in damp bread. You see knives drawn faster, voices raised louder, fists flying over little more than a piece of dry cloth, or a place to sit in the sun. At night, the talk turns darker. Braga tells stories of cursed ship's vessels that took too much and sailed into waters not meant for men. He says they vanish in the fog, crew screaming, sails burning with ghost fire. He says one of the ships bore the mark of St. Elmo's flame for 7 nights before everyone aboard went mad. Some listen rapt, others scoff, but no one tells them to stop. You're tasked with patching sails during a calm stretch. The cloth is stiff with salt, torn in places from the storm and careless knots. As you work, you find your mind drifting to your former life. You don't remember much anymore. A home perhaps, inland, a sister or brother, maybe both. Someone who waited for you once, someone who thought you would come back. You wonder how long they waited before assuming you were dead, or worse. One morning there's a cry from the lookout. Sails. The crew springs into motion like startled wolves. The captain appears from below as if summoned by the smell of prey. He asks no questions, just points. The ship veers starboard. Through the morning haze, you see it, a merchant galley, slow and heavy, flags of a southern city-state flying from its masts. No warships in sight, no visible guards, just trade. The chase begins. Wind in your face, rope burning your palms, salt stinging your eyes. You join the frenzy. This is what pirates live for. Not the pain, not the rot, not the endless hunger, but the moment of approach. The moment before blood and gold. The captain orders silence. No warning shots, no screams. You're to come alongside, boards ready, hooks out. You grip the rail, heart thudding not with excitement but with something else, dread. This will be your first full raid since joining the ship. The others have killed before. You've only watched until now. The merchant vessel doesn't notice you until it's too late. By the time its crew spots your ship, you're within boarding range. Grappling hooks fly, with splinters. Pirates howl as they leap across the gap, blades in hand. You follow. It's chaos. Men shouting in every language, knives flashing, fists flying, blood slicks the deck. You see Sorelli drag a man by the hair and slam his head against the mast. Braga cuts down a boy no older than 15 who raises a hammer in self-defense. You corner a merchant trying to hide behind a barrel. His hands are up, he's crying. You hesitate. He sees it. He lunges at you. You survive. You don't remember the details, just the sound of steel meeting skin, the weight of the body, the blood. When it's over, you sit back against the railing, chest heaving. You feel nothing, not guilt, not victory, just emptiness. The raid ends quickly. The merchant vessel is stripped of food, coin, tools, anything of value. Survivors are left locked in their own hold. The captain has no interest in prisoners this time. He wants speed. He wants silence. Before the sun sets, your ship pulls away, leaving the merchant vessel adrift and broken. Back aboard, the crew celebrates with stolen wine and fruit. The deck smells of blood and sour alcohol. Sorelli roars with laughter as he drinks from a silver cup, blood still splattered across his tunic. Braga sings a song in a tongue no one else understands. You sit apart, cleaning your blade, your hands trembling. You've survived your first kill. There is no initiation, no rite, no recognition. Just the knowledge that now, you are like them. One of them. There's no going back. Later the captain calls a meeting in the dark of night. Only a dozen are summoned, you among them. He speaks little, but his meaning is clear. The loot from the raid will not be divided evenly. There are plans, he says, bigger prey. A galley rumored to carry not just gold, but relics, holy things. Taken from the east during the last campaign, he wants it. Not for coin, for power. Someone dares to ask what kind of power. The captain smiles for the first time in days. The kind men die for, he says. A wind rises. You sleep that night on deck, eyes open, blade near. The stars are veiled, the moon low and red. In the distance, thunder rolls. And somewhere below, near the cargo, the sick are stirring again. You don't close your eyes, because this isn't a story, this is survival. And you are slowly disappearing into it. The wind shifts again, and with it comes a change in the air, not just weather, but mood. The raid is behind you, but its weight lingers in every creak of the wood, and every glance exchanged between crewmen. The celebration has turned sour, wine is gone, the fresh fruit is rotting, and those who had taken the biggest shares now guard them closely, as if expecting theft in the night. The boy you killed, the merchant, still appears in your thoughts, but no longer clearly. His face fades a little each day, as if your mind is actively scrubbing it clean. A defense, perhaps. You wonder how many the others have forgotten already. One morning, while repairing a torn net on the aft deck, you notice it. A small piece of cloth tied to the railing. It's not yours. You didn't tie it, but someone did. A marker. A sign. You check for more. Another near the forward mast, barely visible, fraying in the wind. The old superstition comes back to you sailors, tying bits of cloth to mark safe corners on a ship that feels cursed. But if this crew believes in anything, it's not safety. It's desperation. You ask Braga about it. He looks at the cloth, shrugs. Some don't want to speak of fear, he says. So they whisper with knots. 2 of the sick die the following night. They're thrown overboard in silence, weighted with stones. The captain does not watch, Sorelli does. He smiles. You begin to notice the ship is drifting farther north than expected. Charts are rarely consulted. The stars are the only true guides, and even they disappear behind thick banks of cloud for days at a time. Braga insists the captain is headed for a place called Grell's Teeth, a narrow stretch of reef and current, where merchant ships often wreck and scatter their cargo along the seabed. Dangerous, yes, but lucrative, if timed well. Others are less optimistic. There's no port near the Teeth, says another crewman, older, with fingers missing from frostbite. Only ship bones, and bones of men. Still, the sails are set northward. The mood sours further when the water barrels are found to be tainted. A barrel near the stern smells foul, slimy to the touch. Another is nearly empty. Someone suggests sabotage. Sorelli immediately blames one of the remaining captives, a wiry man with pale skin and quiet eyes. Before anyone can question it, he drags the man onto the deck and beats him unconscious. No one stops it, not even the captain. Afterwards, you check the barrels yourself. It's not sabotaged, it's neglect. The barrels are old, the seals worn, the lids not properly secured during the storm. The salt spray and heat did the rest. But no one wants reason. They want someone to blame. The man dies within the hour. His body joins the sea. Rationing begins again. Not officially, but it happens. Bread is hidden. Dried meat quietly disappears. Those with strength hoard. Those without beg. Braga shows you a trick. He tucks a slice of dried fish into the hollow space inside the handle of his axe. You ask how long he's done that. He says since his 3rd voyage. That's when I learned. He says, you don't survive with strength. You survive with hiding. You begin hiding food to the ship nears the region, marked on some charts as Tempestus Deep, a place few sail through unless desperate or mad. The water here is darker, deeper. Birds no longer follow. Even the wind speaks less. You have vivid dreams now. You dream of a ship burning, not this one, but another familiar and unfamiliar. You see faces in the fire, mouths moving in silent song. One of them is the boy, the merchant. He opens his mouth, and water pours out. You wake with your mouth dry and your heart racing. The next day, a crewman goes missing. His hammock is empty, his gear untouched. No one saw him fall overboard. No one saw him leave. Some believe he jumped. Others whispered that he was taken. You don't ask by what. You already have your own ideas. The captain holds no inquiry. Instead, he orders the ship. Too slow, not stop, just slow. As if waiting for something, that night you find a folded note wedged beneath your bunk plank. Just a single word written in a shaky hand. Listen, you're not sure who left it. You check the handwriting against Braga's. It doesn't match, you don't recognize it. And yet you feel the word vibrating in your bones. So you listen. And for the first time in weeks, you notice it. A faint sound beneath the normal creaking of the ship, beneath the water slap and rat scurry. A rhythmic tapping, too consistent to be random. Not from the hull, from below it, like something knocking against the bottom of the ship. Not hard, not loud. But there you mention it to no one. Not even Braga. The next morning, fog, thick, unnatural. Fog, it clings to the sails, turns day into a colorless blur. Visibility drops to nothing. The lookout bell rings twice, an emergency code. The ship slows further. Sorelli panics, insists on lighting torches despite the danger of being seen. The captain forbids it. A shouting match breaks out, and then, as if summoned by their screams, a shape appears in the fog, not a ship, an island. But it's not on the charts. Cliffs rise from the sea, black and jagged, carved into unnatural shapes by wind and wave. Caves dot the edges. You see wreckage, not one ship, but many. Masts jutting like broken bones from the rocks. Sails tangled in branches of impossible trees. The crew stares in silence. You drift closer, no one speaks. The captain gives the order. To anchor, he says nothing else. Just one word: prepare. And in that moment, you understand something that terrifies you more than hunger, more than storms, more than the blood on your hands. You are not sailing for gold anymore. You are sailing toward something much older than treasure, and you may not be meant to return. The sea holds its breath as the anchor sinks with a muted splash into the waters surrounding the island. No one moves, not even the rats. The sails flutter idly in the thick fog, damp with stillness. The cliffs loom above, jagged and black, like the spine of some ancient beast that had once risen from the sea and frozen in stone. Somewhere beneath it all, something waits. You feel it. So do the others, though they pretend not to. No commands are shouted. Orders now come in murmurs, as if to raise one's voice would disturb the island itself. The longboat is lowered with only for aboard at first 2 rowers, Braga and the captain. They take a lantern and disappear into the haze. You stay behind with Sorelli and the rest of the watch. The fog absorbs all light, all sound. Hours pass, then more. Someone suggests they're dead. Someone else says they never existed to begin with. And then, just before dusk, the boat returns. Braga is pale. The captain is silent. They bring back a single object, a carved stone idol, no bigger than a child's skull. It's slick with sea brine, covered in strange symbols. None of the crew can read them. The captain orders it taken below, locked, hidden, but not thrown overboard. Never that night, the island vanishes into the fog once more. Though the ship never moves, and the knocking beneath the hull returns, more urgent now, rhythmic. You don't sleep, you listen. Something has changed. The sea smells different, not just salt and rot but iron, blood. The air is too still. Your skin prickles constantly, as if unseen insects crawl along your spine. A gull lands on the deck at dawn. It stands there, unmoving, staring. Then it screams, not a call, not a cry, but a human scream, and flies away. The crew starts muttering about the idol. Some say it's cursed. Others say it's a gift. A few think it's a relic of the old gods, those that predate the seafaring saints and the merchant church. Braga is among them. He won't speak directly of what he saw on the island, but at night he prays. not to any god you've heard of. His words are old, slurred, like something remembered from a dream he didn't choose to have. Then the deaths begin again. First, one of the younger boys, a deckhand, no wounds, just gone from his hammock one morning. No splash was heard, no scream, just ... gone. Next, the ship's cook, found standing at the railing, eyes open, unmoving, dead upright, no injuries, his face locked in a silent expression of awe or horror. The captain makes no comment, no new orders are given. The ship remains at anchor. You begin to dream again. But now they are not just dreams. You see the idol in your sleep, but larger, towering above the cliffs of the island, its carved eyes open and weeping water as thick as oil. Beneath it, the sea boils, and figures walk upon it, cloaked in tattered sails, their limbs bound in chains of coral. They do not speak, but you hear them anyway. In your bones, in your teeth, you wake with blood on your lips. You've bitten your own tongue in your sleep. You're not the only one. Others have started mumbling in their sleep, half prayers, half sobs. One man won't open his mouth at all anymore. He just sits against the mast, carving lines into his arm with a finger. When asked why, he simply says, "It's listening." On the third night after retrieving the idol, the fog parts for the first time. The island is gone, just ocean now. But the ship is no longer anchored. No one remembers raising the anchor. Number one knows how they began to drift. The captain says nothing. Sorelli begins to crack. He paces the deck like a caged beast, lashing out at anyone who crosses his path. He threatens Braga, accuses him of bringing the curse aboard. He says the idol must be destroyed, thrown to the bottom of the sea, where its brothers can find it. Braga warns him not to. There are worse things than death, he says. That night, Sorelli disappears. No blood, no struggle, just his boots, neatly placed at the edge of the deck, like an offering. The crew fractures. Some side with Braga, whispering in secret, forming strange rituals around the mast, muttering the old prayers. Others demand the captain throw the idol overboard. Still others retreat into silence, waiting for the sea to decide their fate. You do none of these things. You listen. The tapping beneath the hull continues. It changes faster, then slower, then faster again. It's not random. It's speaking. You spend a night tracing the rhythm into your palm with a needle. It leaves marks you can't explain. Symbols, not letters, but ... You recognize them anyway. You've seen them somewhere. Maybe in a book you once read, or a dream you had before ever joining the ship. Maybe before you were even born. The next morning, the sky is red. Not at sunrise. At noon. Red like rust, like old wounds, like the paint used on warning signs in cursed ports. The birds return, but they do not land. They circle overhead. Thousands of them. Silent. Braga says the sea has opened. You ask what that means. He doesn't answer. Instead, he shows you the idol. Again, it's changed. No longer stone. Now, ... something else. Slick and pulsing slightly, like something half alive. The symbols on its surface move if you look too long. Braga says it has chosen. You ask what it's chosen. He says, the voice. You don't know what that means. But deep inside, you do. Because you've been hearing it too. You lie awake that night, alone on the deck, watching the stars swirl in strange constellations. The air is heavy, your ears ring with a tone just below hearing. And then, you see them. The water. Not shapes, not shadows. Faces. Looking up at you. Eyes wide, mouths open, not drowning, waiting. You do not move. They do not vanish. One reaches up, but the water doesn't part. It stretches like a membrane, and the hand doesn't break. The surface, it presses against it, palm flat, as if touching glass, as if to say, you're next. You blink. And they are gone. Braga finds you in the morning. His voice is calm. His eyes are not. He says, it's almost time. You don't ask for what, because part of you already knows. The captain calls the crew together that afternoon. He finally speaks. Soon, he says, we reach the place. What place? Someone dares ask. He smiles, thin and cruel. The place the old ones remember. The place the tides forgot. The place where no prayers reach. And then, for the first time in days, he laughs. The sound is not human. And the crew, one by one begins to laugh with him. You do not. You're still listening, and the sea is speaking back. The laughter fades slowly, like a song dying on the wind, leaving only silence behind, deep and thick, the kind that makes your ears ring with imagined sounds. The crew disperses without a word, each man retreating to his own corner of the ship. Some clutching weapons, others holding rosaries, and a few simply staring over the rails, as if searching for something just beneath the waterline. You remain still, unsure if you've crossed a threshold into madness, or if something far worse is still coming. Either way, there is no turning back. The sky has not returned to its natural color. It remains bruised and sullen, a dull maroon fading to sickly orange at the horizon. The sun, when it rises, is no longer golden. It is pale and warped, its light diffuse and cold. The heat is gone, replaced by a deep dampness that clings to your skin and clothes and bones. Everything smells of iron and moss and something else, something metallic and wrong. Braga no longer speaks in full sentences. He mutters to himself constantly now, in that same old tongue. Sometimes his eyes roll back when he chants. Once, he vomited salt water and smiled. You watch him carefully, uncertain if he's possessed, or simply broken by the weight of what he knows. You want to believe he's still your ally, but something in your gut has started to doubt it. That night, more disappearances. 3 crewmen gone without trace. No splashes, no screams. Their hammocks untouched, their boots still neatly beside their sleeping spots. Sorelli's fate has become a kind of template, a silent warning echoed over and over in different forms. Even the captain says nothing now. He stands at the helm, staring into the ocean as if awaiting something specific. Not a port, not a ship, a moment. You notice something else. The stars. They are wrong, not in position at least, not obviously, but in behavior. Some do not twinkle, some pulse. One near the horizon is green. Another slowly moves against the sky's natural rotation. No one else seems to notice, or if they do, they've stopped caring. The sea itself has changed color. It's darker now, less blue, more black, thick. When the nets are lowered, nothing is caught, no fish, no weed, just silence and water that leaves behind an oily film. When you touch it, your skin tingles and you see faint shapes behind your eyelids. For minutes afterward, you stop touching it. The idol remains below deck, guarded constantly now by 2 men with blank faces and drawn swords. No one knows if the guards were assigned, or simply chose to stay there. They speak to no one, eat little, never sleep. One night you pass by and hear them humming not a tune, not really, but a vibration, low and deep, as if in unison with something much larger. You don't pass by again. A new word begins to spread among the crew, unspoken at first, then whispered in fearful clusters near the stern, or beside the galley fire Velker. No one knows what it means. Braga says it came to him in a dream. One of the silent crewmen claims to have seen it carved into the hull of a ghost ship that passed silently by in the mist the night before. The captain simply repeats it to himself at dawn, like a litany, Velker. Then the ship stops, no sails furl, no anchor drops, no wind shifts. It simply ceases movement, as if the ocean beneath it has turned solid. You look over the side and see no sea. Not in the way you once understood it. What lies beneath is water, yes, but it does not move, it does not ripple. It simply waits, still as though holding its breath. One by one, the crew gathers on deck, drawn not by orders but by instinct. You join them, heart pounding. The captain steps forward and points out in the distance, just barely visible through the still air and gloom. A shape begins to rise. Not an island, not a ship, a structured massive carved into the side of a sea cliff. That should not exist. There is an archway of impossible scale, flanked by statues older than memory. Each statue bears no face, only a hole where one should be, and within the arch darkness, pure and impenetrable. The Braga whispers, "We have arrived." Someone screams behind you. You turn, but no one is there. Only a faint trail of wet footprints that end abruptly at the ship's railing. Then, the singing begins. Low, at first. Wordless. A chorus. From beneath the waves. A woman's voice, then many, harmonizing so beautiful it makes your chest ache and your eyes tear. You know the story: sirens, sea witches, the drowned maidens. But this is no lure. It is not coaxing. It is welcoming. As if you've already passed the test. As if you belong to them now. The captain removes his coat, lays it on the deck, and Kneels. Braga follows. One by one, others kneel too. You are the last standing. Your hands tremble. Then the ship begins to move again, but not forward. Down the timbers groan. Ropes stretch and snap. The ocean does not splash or swirl. It simply opens, wide and silent, and your ship descends slowly into its mouth, into the maw. As you pass the arch, your breath catches, not from pressure, but from understanding. There are no gods here, only memories, memories of when the world was new, and the ocean had no bottom, and time had no meaning. Before names, before death, before the surface, the statues gaze down upon you, faceless and eternal. You descend into their silence, and still the singing continues, not behind you now, but within you. And for the first time in your life at sea, you begin to feel something you never expected. Not fear, not wonder, belonging. You belong here, you always have. There is no sky now, not even darkness. Simply the absence of direction above, below. All sides blend into a kind of nothingness, a twilight void without source or substance. The ship continues its descent through a silent sea, so dense and still, it feels more like drifting through memory than water. And yet, the vessel does not groan or strain. The ropes lie slack, the sails hang useless. Nothing moves except the ship and those aboard her. No one speaks. The singing stopped some time ago. When exactly you couldn't say. Faded the way dreams do after waking, still real, but just out of reach. Now there is only silence and the occasional, inexplicable sound from the depths. The throb of distant drums, a low metallic hum, and once, a sound like a door slamming shut 1,000 leagues away. You try not to imagine what it means to hear doors closing beneath the sea. The crew are not themselves. Their movements are slow, careful, as if dreaming while awake. They no longer speak to each other. Their eyes have grown distant and unfocused, gazing into corners of the ship where there is nothing to see. The cook now moves only by touch, hands brushing gently along the wood of the galley as if reading it. One sailor has blindfolded himself entirely, saying his eyes see too much when left uncovered. Another only whispers to the sails, asking them questions no one else can hear. The captain remains at the helm, though the wheel no longer turns. He stares ahead, unmoving, his face thin and slack. His beard has gone entirely white in only days. No one questions his silence anymore. You wonder if he still breathes. Below deck, the idol pulses softly with a glow that isn't light. It seems to breathe now, faintly. Those who guard a tiff, they can still be called guards, kneel before it for hours at a time, their mouths open, in silent reverence. Their skin is pale, nearly translucent, and they bleed easily from the nose and gums. One muttered to himself for 3 days straight before vanishing without a trace. His voice still echoes in the beams, sometimes carried by no breeze. You begin to lose track of time. There is no sun to mark the days, no tides, no storms, no stars. Food still exists, though it has lost its taste. Water remains drinkable, but somehow thick, as though holding on to secrets of places it's been. Your stomach has stopped demanding meals. Sleep comes without warning, and sometimes you wake in different places than where you laid your head. Once, you awoke in the crow's nest with no memory of climbing. Another time, in the hold beside the idol, your hand resting on its surface. You tell no one, because in truth it didn't feel wrong, it felt inevitable. Braga speaks to you rarely now, but when he does, it is with a clarity that frightens you more than his madness ever did. One evening, he sits beside you at the stern, eyes wide open but unfocused, and says, "We've passed the veil, we're in their domain now." Who's, you ask? Quietly he turns to you slowly, his face lit by the faint shimmer rising from the Black Sea, the forgotten, the ones who taught the tides to move, the ones who sang the first storms into being, the ones buried so deep, even the gods forgot they ever existed. You shiver, though the air is not cold. Braga continues. They were not cruel, only vast. Cruelty is a small thing, a human thing. They had no need for it. He leans closer and now, they remember. The words echo in your head for days. Then the dreams begin. Again clearer now, more vivid. You do not simply see anymore. You are there. You walk in cities not built by hands, with towers that hum like tuning forks, and streets paved in bones of fish that have never swum in any sea known to man. You kneel before thrones of coral and shadow, where beings without form drift in and out of time, whispering secrets you cannot understand but feel deep in your marrow. You wake up weeping without knowing why. Others are dreaming too. You see it in their faces. The way they jerk awake, drenched in sweat. The way they pause mid-task, eyes glazed, mouths half open in unspoken awe or terror. Sometimes you hear them, speaking in tongues, languages that rattle and echo as if spoken underwater. One man carved symbols into the deck with his fingernails, deep and bloody, before leaping overboard in silence. No splash, no bubbles, just gone. The captain finally speaks again. His voice is different, hollow, reverent. It's near, he says. To no one in particular. The chamber, the deep temple. No one asks what that is. They all understand, now. Even you. This is no voyage of exploration. It is a pilgrimage to what you do not yet know, only that the sea has allowed it, and the price is already being paid. Then one night, the ship stops again. Abruptly, the way of falling dream ends when your body jerks awake, but you are not awake. This is not a dream. The ship floats in black water that no longer reflects. It simply swallows light, thought, sound. Ahead, through the murk, you see it, a structure, vast, monolithic, impossible. It rises from the depths like a wound in the ocean, a city built downward, not upward. Spires of wet obsidian and weeping stone pierce the water's surface. No lights, no movement. But it is not abandoned. You know that. It waits, not dead. Dormant. The ship docks of its own accord at a great stone ledge, half submerged. Ropes slither out, tying themselves. The anchor lowers, but no one touches it. The crew begins to disembark. No commands, no hesitation. One by one, they step onto the stone, soaked instantly, their boots squelching as black water oozes up through the cracks. The air is thick and close, full of breathless weight, yet the silence feels alive. You remain behind for only a moment longer, clutching the railing, and then you follow, because there is no choice. There never was. As you step onto the stone, your ears ring with the return of the singing, fainter now, deeper, less human. You walk into the dark, the city yawning open before you, and somewhere in the distance, 1,000 eyes blink awake beneath the waves. The moment your boots touch the slick, black stone of the deep temple's outer ledge, something shifts, not just in the air, but in you. There's a weight that settles across your shoulders, not physical, but undeniable, as though you've stepped across a threshold into something that remembers every footfall, every breath, every trespass. You are no longer a sailor, nor an intruder. You are a part of it now, and it has begun to remember you. The rest of the crew moves ahead in silence, their figures barely visible in the thick haze rising from the water that laps gently against the ledge. The fog doesn't swirl or drift. Like normal mist, it clings to the ground, motionless, as though it's listening. As you follow, you pass enormous statues, half submerged in the wet stone. Each is shaped like something almost human, but not quite. Elongated limbs, bony ridges across their shoulders, eyes too many and mouths too wide. Some are missing their heads entirely, others their hands, their torsos cracked and oozing water that smells of age and iron. You reach a stairway wide and shallow, leading downward into the heart of the temple. The stone steps are etched with glyphs that shimmer faintly when your feet touch them, as though reacting to your presence. None of the carvings are familiar. They're not runes, not letters, not drawings. They feel emotional, like they're carved into your memory instead of the stone. The descent begins. It's not long before the surface light fades completely. What replaces it is an ambient glow from the walls themselves, faint, silvery, and pulsing slowly, like the temple is breathing. The deeper you go, the warmer the air becomes. Not hot, not stifling, just close, intimate. like being inside something that is asleep, but aware of your steps. The first chamber you enter is vast, a hollow rotunda lined with pillars carved to resemble columns of ribs, rising up and merging, with a ceiling you cannot see. In the center stands a basin, filled with dark water, though the surface is still and perfect as glass. The crew begins to circle it, slowly, as if rehearsing a ritual they do not remember learning. Braga approaches. His skin has grown translucent, his veins visible like blue ink beneath rice paper. He no longer blinks. "We're in its memory now," he says softly, as though afraid of disturbing the air. "This place, ... it remembers what the sea has forgotten." He gestures toward the basin. "That is not water." You look closer, ... within the liquid mirror. Scenes play out, cities collapsing beneath rising tides. Great beasts circling temples like this one, chanting masses of beings you cannot name, their eyes like lanterns in the dark. You see ships made of bone, sailors with coral growing from their backs, and then your ship, the one you came on, moored where it now waits, but older, damaged, abandoned, as if it has already been here, as if it never left. The vision vanishes. You stagger back. Braga smiles gently, like a teacher proud of a student's first step. "It doesn't show the future," he whispers. "It shows the truth. This place lies outside time. You're seeing what always was." You try to ask what he means, but he is already walking toward the far side of the chamber, where a new tunnel descends. You follow, unable to do anything else. Each new chamber is worse. One contains murals, painted in something far too red to be pigment, showing vast rituals, hundreds kneeling before an unseen presence in the sea, their eyes scooped out and placed into bowls. Another has walls made of tightly packed bones, fused together by barnacle and salt, and one worse than the rest is filled with statues of the crew. Exact likenesses, frozen in twisted expressions, as though captured in their last moments. You find your own face among them. The others barely react. Perhaps they no longer can. At some point, you realize you've not seen the captain for hours, perhaps days. Braga says nothing when you ask. Instead, he leads you onward, ever downward. The air grows thicker. The glow from the walls dims. Then, finally, you reach a threshold unlike the others. A gate. It is not made of stone, nor metal. It is something else, something living. Its surface pulses and flexes, a membrane rather than a door. Braga lays his palm against it. It quivers, then splits silently open. Beyond is the chamber of the maw. It is not a room. It is a space beyond measure, a circular pit that drops further than sight. The edges are lined with teeth, giant stone, barnacle-crusted things, curved inward like the jaws of something that once fed here. Tendrils hang from the ceiling, swaying though there is no wind, and in the center, suspended in water, or time is the idol. But it has changed. It is no longer small, no longer stone, it is massive, beating alive, a heart maybe, or an eye. You feel it watching, not just you through you. All at once, every memory in your mind is laid bare. You feel it peeling you open, page by page. Your childhood, your fear, the reasons you came to see, the guilt you buried, the lies you told, the one you loved and left. All of it hung out like sails in a storm. You drop to your knees, not from pain, from understanding. This is not death, this is the beginning. Braga stands beside you, arms raised. The sea is not what we thought, he proclaims. It is not water, not weather, not world. He smiles. It is womb. And then the idol pulses once more. A wave of sound, too low to hear, but so deep your bones vibrate. One by one, the crew begins to step forward toward the drop, toward the pit of teeth, and one by one, they leap. No screams, no splashes, just silence. You remain for a long moment. You are alone. Then you hear footsteps behind you. The captain, his face is serene, empty, enlightened. He places a hand on your shoulder. There is no up, he says, only deeper. And together, you step into the maw. There is no falling, there is only sinking. But not in the way a body sinks in water, with weight and resistance and the desperate urgency of drowning. This descent is quieter, slower, like being absorbed. like being remembered by something ancient, and omnipresent that has finally noticed you again after forgetting you for 1,000 tides. The air disappears, first not with suffocation, but as if breath itself becomes irrelevant. Your lungs no longer rise and fall. Your heart continues to beat, but not with urgency. Instead, it syncs with the deep pulse that reverberates through everything around you. A low, slow rhythm like the heartbeat of a leviathan slumbering in the dark beneath creation. You open your eyes not realizing they had been closed, and the world around you is not black. It is deep green, speckled with dull light like bioluminescent spores drifting through some alien sea. Shapes emerge from the gloom, pillars of ancient stone covered in weeping moss, tangled masses of kelp that twist in spirals with no currents to guide them, and strange translucent structures like jellyfish, larger than ships, slowly pulsing with color. You are no longer in the temple, you are beneath it. Far beneath. This place has no name. Or if it did, it was lost before language itself. You feel that in your bones, in the marrow, where some quiet part of your body recognizes this place. A part untouched by reason, yet alive with terrible knowing. Braga is beside you still, or something that was once Braga. His features are no longer fixed. His eyes have gone wide and completely dark. His teeth are sharper. His skin glistens as if made of scales too small to see. And yet, he speaks in the same calm voice. We are inside the memory of the sea, he says, turning slowly in place. Not the ocean you sailed upon, but the real sea. The one that existed before the world was shaped. The one that dreamt of land and sky and light. His voice trails off, and he seems to listen. To be here is to be known, and to be known is to change. Shapes drift in the water above. Enormous silhouettes, too far and too fast to comprehend. Some are long and serpentine, others, broad and finned. One seems to spiral endlessly, vanishing into itself. They do not notice you, or perhaps they do, and simply do not care. You are smaller than thought to them. Your body no longer moves. By will, you glide forward through the space as though called around you. Faint echoes drift like smoke, fragments of music, memory, voices from long ago, a child's laugh, a sailor's curse, a storm's scream. Then, you see the monuments, rising from the sea floor if it can be called. The tar structures more vast than any cathedral, pyramids without apex, arches that curve in impossible geometry, towers bent back on themselves. Like coiled serpents, the material is unknown, not stone, not coral, not metal. It is dark, but it shimmers when you look away. And every surface is covered in markings, not just writing stories, thousands of them, interwoven and endless. You reach out and touch one wall, and it speaks, not in sound, but in memory. It pours into you like ink into water. You see a time before, men, when beings walked on land that breathed and swam in oceans that thought. You see priests of impossible size cutting their own throats in sacrifice to gods who spoke only through tide and silence. You see cities built to honor those gods crumble beneath waves, not because of war, but because the sea itself reclaimed them, and not as punishment, but as nourishment. Braga is weeping now, silently. You realize you are too, because it is beautiful, terrible, inevitable. You move onward, drawn deeper. At the core of this place is a chamber shaped like a spiral, carved from the bones of something older than stars. Inside is a throne, empty, but not unoccupied. You feel its presence the way you feel gravity, the way you feel sorrow after a dream ends. It watches you without eyes. It does not speak. It remembers you, a flicker you as a child, looking out at the sea from a craggy cliff. Your first time aboard a ship, hand on the rail, breathless with freedom, the first time you dreamed of falling, and the ocean caught you. It has always been with you, waiting because you are not just a sailor. You are a seed, one of many, scattered across the surface world, planted in ships, in storms, in stories. And now, one of you has returned. Returned not to reclaim or conquer, but to awaken. The captain appears beside you. His body is half absorbed into something greater. Now his mouth split wide with rows of gleaming teeth, his spine arched with bone-like fins, his gaze endless, "It is time," he says, voice layered with a dozen harmonics. He raises his hand, and the chamber begins to spin not in space, but in thought. You feel memories rising from the deep, wars, migrations, the turning of the moon, the drowning of continents. It all feeds this place, feeds you, because you are no longer merely a visitor. You are part of it now, and the sea does not give up what it reclaims. Above, somewhere distant, the surface world continues oblivious, irrelevant. Ships sail, men war, kingdoms fall. But down here, in the drowned cathedral of memory, something ancient stirs. Not a god, not a monster, an echo, and it is almost ready to rise. You look at your hands, and they are no longer your own, they are longer. Pale, webby, your voice has left you, but your purpose remains. You are becoming what you were always meant to be, and when the time comes to return to the surface, if it ever comes, it will not be to warn or to weep. It will be to call, to gather to awaken the others. Because the sea is not history, it is destiny, and it has remembered itself. There is a current that flows beneath memory, a slow, ceaseless undertow that carries not water, but time. You drift in it now, not swimming, but being drawn, not as flotsam, but as something far older, rediscovered. In this depthless realm, time does not move forward or backward. It folds, it spirals, and you are folded within it. And as you are taken deeper, not in space, but in remembrance, you begin to understand the truth. The story of the pirate did not begin with men in tricorner hats and gold-toothed grins. It did not begin with stolen galleons or flags stitched with skulls. No, piracy began long before nations, before navies, before speech. It began when the sea first whispered, and a single being listened. You see him now through eyes not your own, a man not by modern reckoning, but upright, sapient, and alone. He stands on a rocky outcrop, beneath a sky blistered with strange stars. Around him no cities, no tools, just the rhythm of the waves, and something calling from beneath them. He was the first to defy the land, not out of rebellion, but longing. Others feared the sea. They saw its violence, its storms, its hunger, its indifference, and turned away. But he loved it with the kind of love that does not demand safety. He threw himself into it willingly, not seeking conquest, but connection. And the sea, curious and ancient, reached back, not with words, but with gifts. It gave him strength not of arm but of will, knowledge not of fire or crop, but of stars, wind, current, and dreams. Dreams of vessels not yet built, of creatures not yet named, of islands not yet risen. He passed these on, not by speaking, but by remembering them so clearly that others began to dream them too. This man, this first pirate, did not steal from ships, he stole from time. He walked the edge of what was and what would be, bringing fragments of the deep future to the shallow present. Others followed him, not many, at first, just a few who could withstand the weight of the sea streams. They built the first rafts from bone and kelp. They mapped the stars before they had names, and they carved their stories into the cliff faces of forgotten continents, which would one day be mistaken for myth. But then came the forgetting, a war not of armies but of silence. Land rose, civilizations bloomed, and the deep knowledge was buried, not destroyed, but drowned beneath newer truths. The sea withdrew, patient, waiting, watching. The pirates who came later, those you know from story and song, were not the first. They were echoes, shadows cast by something much older. They mistook rebellion for purpose, greed for freedom, and yet even through violence and chaos, they carried something of the original spark. You now drift among the wreckage of that long descent. You see the first vessels woven of flesh and shell, guided not by rudder but by will. You see there captains, not men or women, but shapes that shift depending on how you remember them. They speak no language, but every motion tells stories that ripple through the water like light through glass. And you see the moment it all fractured, the betrayal. One among the early mariners grew ambitious not for the sea's wisdom, but for its power. He broke the spiral, tried to hold what was meant to pass through. He built prisons of coral, bound creatures that should never be named. He drained knowledge and wore it like armor. He believed he could rise above the tides. The sea responded, not in wrath but in sorrow. It took him and all who followed, not to destroy, but to forget. It buried his name, scattered his memory across 1,000 shipwrecks, and salted the mouths of those who tried to speak of him. Yet echoes remain. That is what piracy became, a splinter of that original sin, repeated again and again by those who sail not for understanding, but for taking. Every pirate flag raised was a memory of that first wound, every mutiny a retelling, every treasure map a distortion of a much older truth. But some remember, you now are among them. As you drift, you see others, like you, souls caught in the current, their bodies long gone, their minds stitched into the deep fabric of the sea. They do not speak, but you feel them near, and through them, more memories awaken. One of a fleet of ships built of obsidian, that never touched the water, but sailed through mist. One of a captain who bartered his crew's names for passage into a realm beneath the waves, only to return, centuries later, unchanged, with eyes of glass and a voice like wind. One of a woman whose ship was made from her own dreams, and who drowned not when she sank, but when she forgot what she was. These stories are not written in books. They are carved into the bones of whales, etched into the echo of a foghorn, told in the long silence between thunder and lightning at sea. And now, they are written in you. You do not know how long you remain in this drift. Time is a thread, and you have left the loom. But you are not lost. You are being remade, not into a sailor. Not into a pirate, into something before both. You are learning how to listen, not with ears, but with memory. You are learning how to steer, not with compass, but with longing. You are learning how to breathe, not with lungs, but with surrender. And as the spiral draws tighter, you feel it again. The ma, the I, the heart, the source. It has not forgotten you. It has waited patiently, through 1,000 years of false stories and shattered maps. It is not angry. It is not cruel. It is ready. You feel your form changing, not in pain, but in resonance. Your thoughts grow slower, deeper, more fluid. You no longer remember your name. You no longer need it. What you need now is purpose, and it is waiting just ahead. There is no threshold to cross now, no final door. The boundary between what you were and what you are becoming has already dissolved, like ink in a tide pool. You are drifting, yes, but you are not lost. You are being carried, cradled in a current that does not move by water, but by memory, weightless in the presence of something vast and waiting. The silence grows more complete. It is not emptiness, but attention. Every sound you once knew, your breath, the creak of rigging, the snap of sails and wind has gone. In their place is only one sound now, low and endless. The hum. It thrums through everything, your body, your thoughts, your spirits. It is not a noise, but a resonance, as if the sea itself is singing to you in a voice made of gravity. You do not understand its words, but you understand what they mean, and then you see it. The ma. It is not a place, not a beast, not a god. It is the idea of hunger made manifest. A spiral without center, larger than sight, coiled around nothing. It is not waiting for you, it has already taken you in. You realize now, every strange dream you had as a sailor, every time you felt the ocean watching you from the deep, every moment you paused at the sound of distant thunder. It was this. The ma does not devour in rage, it devours in order to remember. You are no longer drifting, you are descending in purpose. The sea is reshaping you, not your flesh, though even that has changed. But your function, you are becoming something it needs, something it once was, long ago, and now seeks to reclaim, a messenger. That is the name you are given, though no voice speaks it. You feel it settle within you like a tide turning. Your mind opens further, not with understanding, but with recognition. You see the world above not as it is, but as it truly appears from the perspective of the deep continents, old wounds risen from sleep, arrogant and brittle, cities, clusters of light, flickering briefly before the flood, ships, insects crawling on a skin that does not belong to them, and people, they shine briefly brightly, but they burn too fast, forget too quickly, and name too many things they do not understand. The ma does not hate them, it remembers them. You are shown the truth of what is to come, not in prophecy, but in possibility. The world will not end in flame, it will end in water. Not all at once, not with drowning, with return. Bit by bit, the sea will call back its pieces. Islands will vanish, shores will fall away, species will slip from air to brine, and those who listen will come willingly. The others will simply forget, and your purpose. To begin that remembering. To whisper to those still near the shore. You are pulled into a ritual older than language. You feel your name being unwritten. Your memories are sifted, sorted, kept or cast away. You are not made blank. You are made useful. The sea does not want purity. It wants resonance. Braga is there, though not as a man. He drifts above you like a tattered banner in a current, his eyes glowing faintly. He has taken his place. He is now a keeper, guarding the thresholds of story in silence. He sees you and does not speak, but he nods, approval or farewell, and then the sea gives you something, a shell. It is no larger than a hand, but impossibly heavy. You feel it vibrate with knowledge, histories pressed into its spiral. It is not for you. It is for the surface. You are to take it, carry it back, place it where it will be found, and when it is opened, not with hands but with thought, the memories inside will spread, like salt and rain, like truth and dreams. The transformation is now complete. You are not a pirate, not a sailor. You are not even human in the way the surface world would define it. You are something remembered, a fragment made flesh, an echo that speaks, and the maw releases you. You rise, not upward, not in body, but in direction. You are moving toward the world again, but not the one you left. Not entirely. The world above has changed while you were gone. Or perhaps it has stayed the same, and only you are different now. You pass through a layer of memory that feels like surf breaking on skin. You breach. And when you do, the air hits you not cold, not hot, but alien. The sunlight feels false. The sky is too bright. The colors are loud and disjointed. You feel the heaviness of land even as you step foot on it. But you do not stumble, you walk forward. Your form is still yours mostly. You have arms, legs, eyes, but everything within them has been rewoven. Your spine holds salt. Your breath carries song. Your shadow drips slightly, even in dry places. And now, your task begins. You must move among the people, not as a prophet, not as a savior, but as a reminder. You will find the forgotten things. Speak to those who hear in dreams. Leave marks in tidal caves and salt-streaked windows. You will not be understood, not at first. You do not need to be. The sea will speak through you, and it is patient. It has all the time in the world. As you begin to walk the shoreline, alone, unrecognized, a child stops and stares at you. Her eyes are wide. She steps closer. You kneel and press the shell into her hand, and without knowing why, she smiles. Because, deep in her bones, something remembers. It begins with water. It always does. Not a flood, not a storm, just a single drop. A bead of condensation rolling down a brass compass. A puddle that lingers days longer than it should. A fisherman who finds his nets full not of fish, but of bones smoothed by centuries. Harmless, at first. Unnoticed by most. But the rhythm is shifting. The world above, so certain in its borders, so proud of its empires, has no words for what is happening. It chalks it up to weather, to climate, to coincidence. Scientists take samples, write papers, but none of them remember the spiral you do. You are walking now, not among the grand cities, but the tide towns, the edge places, the forgotten villages that cling to cliff and bay, like barnacles on a hole. You move through them, not with spectacle, but with silence. You speak little. When you do, people feel strange afterward, as though they'd heard something important in a language they never learned. You do not stay long anywhere. You leave things behind, driftwood carved with impossible symbols, knots tied in patterns, older than rope, tiny stone tablets that sing when wet. You place them where hands will find them, curious hands, tired hands, not the powerful, not the proud, but those who remember their dreams, and slowly, it spreads. A lighthouse keeper begins to hum in his sleep, low, looping melodies that echo the pull of the tide. A child draws maps of places no one taught her, islands that rise and vanish like breath. A woman who has never left her inland village begins speaking words from a dead sailor's journal. Lost 300 years ago. She doesn't know what they mean, but you do. The sea's memory is leaking in. It does not roar. It seeps. It erodes certainty. Not with violence, but with inevitability. People begin to notice things. Salt on their lips far from shore. Dreams. Of drowning that do not frighten but comfort. Old songs coming back into fashion, sea shanties no one can trace. Lyrics no one recalls writing. One day a man sails alone across the Atlantic without compass, map, or engine. He says he just knew the way. Another swears he saw a ship vanish into fog and reappear a century newer. A girl dives into a lake and comes out clutching a coin minted before her country even existed. These stories are dismissed. They always are, but not by everyone. There are others like you now. You can feel them. Some were chosen as you were drawn. Down, reshaped, returned. Others were simply born with it, the resonance in their marrow, the pull toward the deep. You meet them in passing. A glance exchanged across a crowded harbor. A nod on a moonlit beach. No words needed. You recognize each other by what you do not say together. Without knowing you're together, you begin to prepare the world, not for war, not for disaster, for remembering. In one city, an underground chapel is discovered, carved entirely from coral. The architecture is impossible, walls curved like waves, inscriptions that shift when viewed from different angles. No one knows who built it, but you do. It was never built. It returned. A scholar at a maritime museum finds herself obsessed with a single exhibit, a jawbone from an unknown sea creature, its teeth shaped like letters. She stops sleeping. She begins tracing them. Without knowing how, she translates them. What she reads makes her weep. She cannot explain why. You watch all this from afar. You never intervene. You simply are. A shadow in mist. A quiet presence in markets, at docks, beside fires where old sailors trade lies. And though your body walks, your mind is often back beneath the surface, touching them all, listening. The sea is not giving orders. It is waiting for a moment, for a sound, for the thing. No one remembers until it is too late. And then, one night, it happens. You feel it like a tremor. Not in the ground, in people. A shift, a change in the tide of thought, a threshold past. It begins with a dream, not yours. The girl with the shell, the one you met so long ago, has grown. She lives by the sea still, but she is no longer a child. She does not remember you, but she remembers the feeling, the way your eyes met hers and the silence bloomed around her like a tide pool. She has kept the shell. She still listens to it sometimes, and tonight, it sings music, memory in her sleep. She walks to the shore, and in the morning the ocean is closer. The tide has not risen, the maps have not changed, but the sea is closer in every way that matters. Its voice is louder, its scent sharper, its pull undeniable. Across the world, others do the same. They walk shorelines they've never seen. They speak names not spoken in centuries. They begin to draw symbols that hum with meaning. They gather, in twos, in tens, in silence, and the rest of the world. It watches, confused, worried, dismissive. But the sea has waited longer than nations. It will wait longer still, and you are ready. You stand at the edge of a cliff, wind tugging at your coat. Below, the waves churn not with violence but with expectation. You feel them calling not to return, but to lead. You are no longer a pirate, no longer a sailor. You are something older, deeper, truer. You are memory, and memory is patient. They say belief shapes the world, but few understand how thoroughly the world shapes belief, and fewer still realize that memory shapes both. It starts not in churches, but in whispers. In a mountain village far from the ocean, a shepherd dreams of a woman made of kelp and tide, rising from a spring that should have been dry. He tells no one, but the next morning he finds the lambs all huddled at the edge of the stream, silent, eyes wide, as if they've seen something ancient and important. In a coastal city, a group of schoolchildren begin humming a tune none of them remember learning. It has no lyrics, But the notes feel familiar, so familiar it makes their teachers uneasy. One by one, they stop humming. But at night, they still hear it. And in the great libraries, those temples of paper and dust, things begin to happen. Books long catalogued vanish, only to reappear with added pages. Old maps lose islands and gain new coastlines. Ship logs rewritten in faded ink begin to reference places that never existed. The curators grow frustrated, then nervous, then quiet, because some of them remember the names, and they shouldn't know. One should, but the sea does, and the sea is remembering through them. Religions begin to shift, not in dogma, but in tone. Priests begin to include stories not in scripture, myths from early texts, tales of sea gods, long out-of-fashion deities that wept salt and carried the drowned to silent kingdoms beneath the waves. Congregations are unsettled, not frightened. Something in them stirs at the mention of the old water names, the Sa'agir Sedna names that taste like tides and blood and ancient dreams. It's not revival, it's resurfacing. Even those who do not believe begin to notice the changes. Painters start to include strange shapes in their landscapes, subtle spirals, slanting sun's eyes beneath the surface of the sea. Poets speak of the hush beneath the roar, of the woman who walks the foam with footprints made of song. Sculptors find themselves carving barnacles onto marble. Though they cannot explain why, no one sees the pattern except you. You see it everywhere. The world above is softening, its edges are curling inward, like paper soaked too long. It is no longer resisting the sea's return. Not entirely. Not with force, but with yielding. The ocean has always known how to wait. And now it's being remembered not just in history, but in story. You pass a bookstore and stop. In the window is a novel titled The Drifted Shore. It's new, a first-time author. You've never heard of it, but you have. You read it once, long ago. Not in this world. Not with these words. But the story is the same. A sailor vanishes beneath the sea, and returns with no ship, no tongue, no name, but with eyes that see through time. You enter the shop and pick up the book. The clerk doesn't speak to you. She watches you with a strange sort of knowing, like someone who's met you before in a dream. She can't quite place you by the book. You leave it on a bench. Someone else will need it, and this is how it spreads. Not with conquest, but with curiosity. The sea is not trying to reclaim with storm seeds, reclaiming with story. Every myth it seeds becomes an opening. Every remembered name, a crack in the armor of forgetfulness. And through those cracks it flows. One day you find yourself in a museum, maritime wing, dusty models, faded flags, glass cases filled with compasses that no longer point north. You walk through it quietly, not to look, but to listen, and you hear it faint. Beneath the floorboards, a heartbeat, not yours. The oceans, you move toward a display in the far corner, a forgotten exhibit, just a plank of wood, shattered at one end, a label that reads, Wreckage of the Bellona, 1657. You remember the Bellona, you remember its captain. You remember that it never sank. It was taken, you reach out, and for a moment, just a breath, you feel the salt again. The cold, the hum. You hear voices beneath your feet, singing not in mourning, in greeting, you smile. The world is remembering. Faster now, it cannot help it, somewhere. A scientist makes a discovery. Deep-sea creatures once thought extinct are returning, not evolving, returning. As if they'd only been waiting, just out of reach. As if they'd heard the call before anyone else. Somewhere else, an entire island reappears. Not rises, reappears. As though it had simply been misplaced. It is uninhabited, but structures remain: stone rings, carved steps, doorways facing east toward the open sea. No one built them, at least. No one human. The nations send investigators. The island is closed off. But not before someone takes a photo of a single inscription, carved deep into the stone in a language no one recognizes. You recognize it. It says, "We are coming back. Wait with your feet in the surf." You know what this means. The final phase is beginning. You were never sent to change the world. You were sent to remind it what it always was. You walk the shore that evening with the wind soft against your face. Above, stars begin to show, visibly, not immediately, but their positions feel different, less random, more patterned. The spiral again. It is everywhere and somewhere far beneath the waves. The maw begins to stir, not to devour, to rise. Slowly, not as a beast, but as a memory too large to stay buried, and the world at last begins to listen. There comes a moment when the present becomes porous, when memory no longer clings to the past, but slips through the cracks of the now, soaking everything it touches. And for those living through it, the strangest part is not fear but recognition. It starts subtly. A woman in Lisbon wakes up with sea salt on her pillow, though her windows were closed and she hasn't visited the coast in years. A shopkeeper in Bristol dreams of tying knots he's never been taught, intricate sailor's knots, exact and purposeful, and wakes with rope burns across his palms. A teenager in Nova Scotia begins speaking in his sleep, mumbling how commands in 17th century English. His parents think it's gibberish, but a retired historian listening to a clip online weeps when she hears the name Cutter's Cross. That was a pirate haven that vanished without trace in 1643. She knows, she remembers, but she shouldn't. No one should. And yet, that's the point. The sea's remembering is no longer just seeping, it is blooming. The past is no longer something that happened, it is something happening. The barrier between then and now has softened, like parchment left too long in the rain. You watch from the margins, as you always have, never interfering, never correcting, because this is how it's meant to be. The world above forgot, but not forever. It cannot hold amnesia against the truth of the tide, and the truth is this. The age of pirates never ended, it was submerged. Now it rises. People begin to report strange flashes, vivid sensations of lives they never lived. A blacksmith's apprentice in Poland grips a hammer and sees, not iron, but cannon shot. A bus driver in Morocco flinches as if struck, claiming he saw a boarding axe swing toward his head. A librarian in Maine begins scribbling shipping logs in a dialect of French that hasn't been spoken in 300 years. None of them understand what's happening, not yet, but some begin to believe. A support group forms online, remembering the salt. They gather stories from around the world, people who feel ... displaced, not in place, but in time. One woman writes about feeling homesick when she hears the creak of wood on a rainy day. A boy in Kyoto draws maps of coastlines that don't exist. A man in Senegal dreams every night of standing at a ship's wheel, only to wake with aching hands and the taste of rum and smoke on his tongue. The stories are treated like fiction at first, but they grow too consistent, too aligned. People separated by oceans begin reporting the same visions, the same ship names, the same colors in the sails. And then, one by one, they start to recognize each other, not in person, but in their dreams. They're meeting. Then, the 1600s, on ships lost to history, and more alarmingly some are beginning to bring things back. A young girl in Buenos Aires dreams of walking the deck of the Widow's Mercy, a pirate brig that raided Portuguese galleons in 1651. In her dream, she finds a small silver locket carved with a spiral and the word Avon. She wakes up clutching it. It isn't tarnished, it isn't old, it shouldn't exist, but it does, and that changes everything. Archaeologists dismiss it as a hoax, but then a second object surfaces, a weathered flag found buried beneath a London pub, exactly matching one described in a pirate's lost diary. And then a third, a rusted spyglass with impossible etchings, matching one seen in the dreams of multiple unrelated people across continents. The world tries to make sense of it. It cannot. And beneath the surface, the sea waits. You feel it in your bones now, the stirring. The spiral is not just a symbol, it's a path. A loop drawing tighter, a convergence of what was and what is again. The sea is not returning to reclaim, it's returning to remind. And through these echoes, these memory fractures, it is rebuilding what was lost. You stand atop a cliff one morning and see a ship far below, not a modern one, not steel and white paint, but wooden, with sails, no flag, no engine, no name. It vanishes when you blink, but you know it was real. Elsewhere, others see the same. Ships where none should be. Footprints in the sand that lead into the surf and don't come back. Lantern lights floating out at sea, bobbing on waves. Older than memory. The boundary is fading, and the world above begins to change. Old legends are dusted off. Towns embrace forgotten festivals. Drownings reenacted as pageants. Stormluck charms worn again by fishermen. Tales of the sea witch who marks those she favors. They were stories once. Now they feel like instructions. Those marked by the spiral begin to find each other. Not with signs or words, but with instinct. They gather in hidden places, beaches at midnight, rooftops beneath storms, cellars where brine leaks through the stones, and together, they listen to the waves, to their dreams, to you, because you are no longer alone in this remembering. You are the first perhaps, but not the last. The tide is rising in more than water. It's rising in thought, in blood, in the marrow of time itself. The maw knows, the sea knows, that and now finally, so does the world. It begins with time bending, not snapping, not shattering, but softening, like glass just before it melts. And when time softens, it no longer holds its shape. Moments begin to bleed through the cracks, and the past no longer stays politely behind its curtain. Instead, it spills. It happens first, in isolated bursts, in Port Royal, Jamaica. A tourist swears he saw smoke curling from the sea, thick and black, before vanishing like mist. A local fisherman later claims to have seen wooden mast, offshore, sailing without wind. In Cadiz, Spain, 3 separate people report the same vision at the same time. A gallows on the pier, with no one hanging from it. Yet the sound of creaking ropes still echoed in the air. Then larger fractures appear. A cargo ship in the Pacific loses power for 7 minutes. When it drifts back online, the crew reports seeing a flotilla of ancient ships surrounding them, crewed by figures moving too slowly, like puppets underwater. Radar shows nothing, cameras glitch. But every crew member draws the same 3-masted silhouette when questioned. In Venice, gondoliers stop mid-song as a phantom cannon blast shakes the air. Tourists scream, but there's no smoke, no ship, just the smell of salt and powder. Is not illusion, that is overlap. Time is ceasing to behave, and now people are no longer dreaming the past, they are standing in it. At first it happens for seconds. A street turns to cobblestone. A neon sign flickers, replaced briefly by a hanging lantern. A phone turns to a leather-bound logbook for the blink of an eye. People drop their belongings and run, but some don't, some stand still. They feel the shift and remain quiet, like hearing the breath of a god behind your shoulder. These are the ones already remembering. You walk among them now, not as a guide, but as a witness. The world is remembering itself through you. Your presence accelerates. The bleed in the places you walk, time becomes thinner. Sailors' voices echo in city alleyways. The brine returns to soil. Barnacles grow where no ocean has ever touched. The modern world fights back. Of course, governments form task forces. Scientists publish denials. Satellite footage is redacted, but they're too late. The phenomenon has momentum now. And more importantly, it has believers, not cults, communities. They don't worship the sea. They don't kneel. They remember together, in circles around bonfires, in whispers over radios, in silent vigils at the edge of flooded docks. They trade phrases. From old languages, they carry pocket compasses with no needles. They hum the forgotten sea shanties without knowing the words. And they listen, always, for the signal. It comes on the 12th day of a red moon. A great bell tolls, not in a tower, not anywhere that can be seen, but everywhere it can be heard. Even underground, even in dreams. The world stops for a breath, then it happens. The first fold, in Boston Harbor. Onlookers scream as a galleon appears. Mid-channel sails full, in a wind that doesn't blow. It exists for 13 seconds, dripping with seaweed and centuries, before vanishing again. But a single barrel it carried is left behind, floating. It's opened. Inside are coins minted in 1634. Wrapped in cloth that has not decayed. A building vanishes for 5 minutes, replaced by a watchtower no one recognizes. A child draws the tower afterward with startling accuracy, complete with symbols that match carvings found underwater near the Canary Islands. Those symbols, identical to the spiral, in a museum in Marseille. The glass over a display case cracks, without impact. Inside, a pirate's cutlass, long rusted. But when tested after the incident, the rust is gone. The sword gleams like it was forged yesterday. The museum burns incense in secret now. Just in case. The folds increase. Moments from the age of sail manifest and vanish like lightning across the globe. A dock transforms into an 18th century market for a full minute. Passersby describe voices calling out prices in Breton, barrels of dried fish, and an elderly man playing a hurdy-gurdy. One woman takes a photo. The photo shows nothing, but the fish smell lingers on her coat for days. You begin to feel them, more acutely these folds, not as events but as calls. The sea is drawing you inward, toward something it needs you to see, toward something it needs you to become. Your fingers ache. You realize you've been clenching your hand. When you open it, there is a coin inside. You didn't put it there, but it is warm, and on it the spiral. The past is no longer whispering. It is arriving, and not all who arrive are welcome. Reports emerge of figures seen within the folds. Pirates. Yes, but wrong, pallid-mouthed words that cause nausea. They do not speak for the sea. They mock it. These are not memories. These are echoes, mistakes, broken copies of real men who were swallowed whole by the deep, but left unresolved, and they are coming through too. It is not just remembering anymore, it is reckoning. The spiral must complete itself. That means more than return. It means balance. The past is not being restored. It is being reconciled. All the debts, all the names, all the betrayals, every pirate who fled justice, every sailor who vanished, every oath broken on blood-soaked decks, they are coming back, not to haunt, but to conclude, and in their return, you see the shape of what's to come. The world is being asked to stand witness, because soon, the sea will rise not in waves, but in memory, and no one will remain unchanged. It is not always clear when a choice is being offered. Often, it arrives not as a moment, but as a drift, a slow, rising tide that carries the world with it, until dry land is only a memory. And by the time you realize the choice was made, the waves are already at your chest out now. Across the world, people begin to feel the weight of something offered, not demanded, not forced, simply laid before them like a map with no key, only a mark spiraling dot. The choice is simple: resist or remember. Those who resist attempt to anchor themselves in the present. They retreat into cities, into logic, into silence. They stop speaking of what they've seen, stop naming the strange changes, stop listening to the sound of gulls when there are no birds. They delete the forums, burn the notes, seal the cracks in their walls with concrete and prayer. But forgetting takes effort. Now, too much. A man in Hamburg boards up his windows and turns off every device he owns, determined to drown out the pull of memory. That night, the tide rises past the banks of the Elbond in his yard. Beneath the river-scented grass, old timbers press up from the soil. He dreams of a sea trial. He cannot forget. In Tokyo, a school teacher begins losing time. She blacks out for 7 minutes each morning and returns holding fragments of charcoal drawings, ships, flags, faces she doesn't recognize. Until one day, she does. Her own reflection, but younger, harsher. A pirate's blade at her side. She stops, resisting. She begins to remember, and with remembrance, comes a change, not sudden, but certain. These people begin to speak in two voices, from now, and one from then. Not out loud, but in the rhythms of how they move, and how they touch water, and how they wait. They recognize each other, two on trains, in shops, in airports. A nod, a pause. A look that says, I've felt the seas pull too. A woman in Lagos builds a boat. She has never built anything before. It is not seaworthy, but it is true. Carved with symbols she claims she saw in a mirror. Carved with hands not entirely her own. She sails at once, for 7 minutes. Then it burns. But she walks away untouched, smiling. I chose, she says. And that's what it is now. A global choosing. Those who remember begin to act differently. Not just haunted, but embodied. They step into roles not assigned, but remembered. A boy in Montreal knows how to load a flintlock. A chef in Naples starts seasoning food with herbs not used in centuries. A barista in Manila greets customers with weather holds. For now, though she doesn't know why. Her regulars begin to say it back. "You're no longer Thit" is everywhere. Graffiti spreads across city walls, spirals drawn in chalk and ash. In rust, some so subtle you miss them unless you're already marked. People begin leaving coins at crossroads. Broken compasses are worn like jewelry. Ships that haven't sailed in decades are cleaned, painted, prepared. They're not going anywhere, but they're ready, and still, the sea waits. Not forever. There will be a moment, a final one, when the spiral closes, the fold finishes, and what's been rising will arrive fully, not as phantoms, or flashes, or brief disturbances in time, but as truth, full and undeniable. And before that moment, the sea offers one last thing, an invitation to you. It doesn't speak it aloud, it doesn't need to. You feel it the way sailors feel storms in their bones. One night you dream of a shoreline with no sky, only mist, and the scent of old wood. A ship waits offshore, not crewed, not yet, but ready. Its sails hang loose. A lantern swings from the stern, unlit. But the spiral is carved in the tiller, and in the grain of the mast, and in the pattern of your breath. You wake with your boots damp. There's no explanation, and no need for one, because now, finally, the world is no longer just watching the sea, it is answering. It begins without fanfare. No thunder, no screaming sky, no final trumpet's call, just stillness. The kind of stillness that settles across an ocean, just before something ancient begins to move beneath it. The kind of stillness that doesn't lull, but warns. It is the end of forgetting, and the beginning of something else. The spiral completes across the world. The signs align. Salt creeps into concrete. Fog rolls in, even over deserts. Rivers reverse their flow for hours at a time. Clocks freeze for 77 seconds, at the same moment in every time zone. In London, the Thames briefly runs red, not with blood, but with crushed petals, as if some unseen ritual has been performed. In Bangkok, bells toll in temples with no monks present. In Seattle, a woman is seen walking across a lake without sinking, humming a tune no one recognizes but everyone finds familiar. People stop denying, even those who once refused to remember. Now feel the press of something vast and tidal behind their thoughts. And those who chose memory, those marked by the spiral, begin to change. Their eyes hold storms. Their voices carry echoes. Their movements recall the balance of ship decks. Even on solid ground, they are not possessed, they are restored. They become what they always were beneath the surface, keepers of a history that was never dead, only asleep. And now, the choice is offered not to individuals, but to the world itself, to integrate or be overtaken. The spiral gives no threat, no ultimatum. It simply is, like gravity, like tide, like memory itself. Across coastal cities, the blend begins. Harbors flicker between centuries. A pier built in 2009 coexists, impossibly, with a whaling dock from 1621. Markets sell apples and electronic parts beside barrels of dried cod and pitch-soaked ropes. Pirates step through glass doors into convenience stores and leave with nothing but a nod, unaware, uncaring of the year. Wi-Fi cuts in and out like a heartbeat syncing with another time. A 17th century lookout tower appears in the skyline of Cape Town and never fades. The authorities attempt containment. It fails. Time is no longer linear. It curls like rope, loops like a tossed lasso, binds past and present in knots no one can untie. But it is not chaos. It is correction. The sea is rewriting the coastline of reality to include what was buried, and not all that returns is gentle. There are ships that reappear full of rotten silence, crewed by what might once have been men. They bring no trade, only hunger. They seek names, debts, truths left unpaid. In Boston, one such vessel docks and disembarks. No one but dozens disappear from the streets that night. Each had denied the sea balance. Others returned bearing maps, keys, stories, things the world thought lost. A woman in New Zealand unearths a chest on her family's farm. Inside, 6 books written in an extinct dialect of Polynesian French, detailing islands that no longer exist, yet whose coordinates now sit above the sea by exactly 13 feet. Where land is rising from beneath the waves, the earth remembers, too. Even those far from water feel the shift. In Kansas, an orchard is found to contain lemon trees salt-tolerant, coastal, impossible. In Mongolia, a child draws a detailed map of Caribbean trade routes from 1685. He has never seen the ocean. The world stands at a crossroads. Not marked on any modern map, it must decide to resist and watch the age of sail rise again anyway. Disjointed and furious, returning in fragments like bone through skin, or to welcome it. To build something new. So the new builders come. They do not wear suits. They do not hold degrees. They carry rope, memory knots. They come from all corners of the world, speaking languages both modern and dead, working not from blueprints but dreams. Together, they craft the first true port of the spiral age. It is not in one country. It is not in one time. It exists wherever memory and sea converge. It has sails and satellite dishes, wood and solar panels, cannons that fire only salt, lanterns that glow by good. It welcomes all who choose remembrance, all who walk the decks of their old lives, barefoot and unashamed. And at its center, there is always a spiral, not drawn. Live to you. Walk its docks often now. You are not a captain, you are not a guide, you are something revore, witness who never looked away, a memory that never let go. You are salt-bound, tides-worn, spiral-marked. And as the sea calms, as the world learns to breathe with this new rhythm, one thing becomes clear: this was never a return, this was a correction, a balancing of stories, a reconnection of every rope cut too soon. The age of pirates did not die, it waited, and now it sails. Again, not to conquer, but to remind that history is not behind us, it is beneath us. And when the tide rises, it brings back not just water, but truth. Sleep now if you wish, but do not forget, the spiral never ends, it only turns.